Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Adobe XD Masterclass. My name is Howard Pinsky. I'm a Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is you are in the world. Let me know. Throw your name in the chat if you are tuning in on Behance. Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from. And if you are tuning in on YouTube or any other platforms, head over to behance.net/live/Adobe Live. That's the one. That way you can chat and have a good time, ask questions, whatever it may be. But a big hello to Tim and Villentaz. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I do apologize. Anna and Cindy and Jack and Abdullah. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar, friendly faces in the chat, and I'm always excited about these masterclasses because it really allows us to kind of dive deeper. You know, we have our basic streams, we have our daily challenges, which Andrea Hawk just hosted, but on Fridays we're now doing masterclasses. We kicked off the day with Terry White this morning, who did a photography masterclass using Lightroom. We had Paul Tranny with Photoshop, and then we had Jason Levine with Adobe Audition. So we have a lot of really cool stuff on Fridays, really diving deep into some of the applications you use on a daily basis. Hey, Richard from New York City. Let me move my monitor up just a little bit so I can see all your friendly faces a little bit easier. There we go. We've got Diego and Monir from Istanbul, Antonio from Florida, Thomas from Birmingham. I love this. I love seeing people from all over the world tuning in and just having a good time. So, what do we have planned for today? Let me hop over to my screen and we are just going to get started. So Josh is asking, are these recorded? I'm in a meeting. Well, you should just ditch your meeting. I'm kidding. Yes, they all are recorded and you will be able to watch them immediately after they finish. On behance.net/live, you'll be able to scroll down, they'll be there. They're on the Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube channel, and I'm sure I'll be posting links to the recorded session at some point on Twitter as well. So follow me there. I think, Josh, I recognize the name, so you might be following me on Twitter. Anna, welcome. On Fridays, we wear XD. Indeed. Tim says, did I see a Kurtzgedark poster? Yes, I probably mispronounced it, but I actually have one right in front of me. I'm staring at it right now. I'm a huge fan of their work. And they were on Adobe Live not too long ago in Germany. I didn't understand anything they were saying, but being able to see that stuff being produced is just fantastic. Big fan of their stuff. So anyways, let's see. Luke is asking about Wacom tablets. Maybe someone in the chat might be able to help him out. Otherwise, Adobe Care on Twitter is a good place to go. So what are we going to be doing today? And yeah, TGIF. So here we go. This is what we're doing. Here's my Dribbble account, dribbble.com/Pinsky. Give me a follow. Why not, right? So I've been working on this. I've been exploring what, some Nintendo Switch style interactions could look like using Adobe XD. And these are probably not perfect in terms of user experience, but we're going to show you kind of how to build something like this. So, starting off with, a few little cards and expanding to something a little bit more interesting. And of course, Animal Crossing is coming out in less than 30 days. I'm really excited. I don't know if any of you are Animal Crossing fans, but we're fans over here in this household. Let me know in the chat what you, if you play the Switch, if you use the Switch. And if we do have some time, I do have my Xbox controller over here. And no, it's not a Nintendo Switch controller, but we might dive into some gamepad trigger support in Adobe XD. We can wire it up and, navigate artboards using our gamepads, which is kind of cool. If you are brand new to Adobe XD, I would recommend going over to letsxd.com and just, learning. I have a ton of videos on here. It just goes on forever. And I also have been recently doing some 5-minute challenges that are on YouTube as well. You can participate in those if you don't have much time to do the 30-minute challenges, but I recommend both if you do have some time. All right, so let's check out. Jesse says, dang, Howard. Indeed. Jimmy says, never played Animal Crossing. I would recommend it. It's a very chill game. There's a lot of farming and chopping down trees, things like that, and you can build out this one you can build out anyway. It's fun. Go check it out. Not sponsored or anything, but here we go. Let's hop over to Adobe XD and we're going to get going. Let me bring up the new dialogue right here. And we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And again, if you have questions throughout the stream, throw them in the chat. I will be taking a look at them as much as possible. So, thinking about the Nintendo Switch UI, the actual resolution is 1280 by 720, right? So it's not a very big high resolution device. We could go as much as 1920 by 1080. I'm sure future Switches will support that. Maybe when it's docked, it supports 1920 by 1080. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to just do a 1280 by 720. So I'm going to just enter it here, 1280 by 720, and press on custom size. It's going to launch an artboard, and we'll be able to just dive in and start designing some fun stuff. But because we want to really think this through, maybe I'm going to bring up Evernote for a second. And we might want to just start jotting things down. Like if in a perfect world, what would we want on an experience like this, right? And I would love to hear your suggestions in the chat. If you were designing the next UI for the Nintendo Switch, what do you want to see? One of the things, let's start listing some things that we definitely need, right? We need a profile photo. Let me zoom in here so I can really see what we're doing. So we need a photo. Let's go for profile photo. That's at the top left, I believe, and that's so that we can, access our friends, access our profile, that sort of thing. We need to see the battery. So we need a battery indicator of some sort, a battery icon. And of course, we need to see our games. So these are the things that, are on the Switch right now, or on most consoles. You'll be able to see some of this stuff. But, thinking a little bit through, one thing I've always wanted on the Nintendo Switch is some sort of way to organize my games a bit better. Folders would be a great example. Let me actually just make this into a bulleted list. I guess manually making those don't work. Folders would be cool. Maybe some cards, as you saw in the example, to be able to kind of swipe between them. Maybe they animate a little bit. They have some sort of fun interactions. Jimmy says, chopping a tree on someone is my absolute favorite thing to do. Indeed, it's very soothing. So folders would be kind of cool in a Switch. And then maybe when you tap on these cards, they expand full screen, right? So you'll be able to see more information. You can watch trailers, you can purchase the game, that sort of thing. Jimmy says, can you redesign the PS4 interface? It is terrible. I wish I could redesign everything, but I can't. And you may also want a way to get to your system information. If you are a Nintendo Switch user, there's this thing at the bottom. There are all these little icons that very few of us actually go into on a daily basis. So I want to kind of hide some of that stuff. So we're going to kind of go over some of these things. We're going to use auto animate, maybe gamepad triggers and that sort of thing. But we're going to have some fun. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to start backwards. If I hop back over to Chrome for a second, the first thing in this interaction are these cards. But I'm actually going to start with this screen here. We're going to start very flashy, and we're going to work our way backwards. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You got to kind of run with it and see what happens. And Tim says, Poppins and hot pink everywhere. I totally agree, Tim. Poppins forever. All right, so on this screen, we're going to start with our background. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab our rectangle over to the left and simply draw one out just like this. I'm going to leave a little bit of room at the bottom because we're going to add a little bit of a pattern. So I'll just draw out a rectangle. Just change the color. I'm going to be throwing an image in a second, but just so you can see it against the background, there it is, a beautiful rectangle. I'm going to double click, just name this background just to keep my layers up to date. Sometimes I kind of slip and I've got rectangle 492 in my layers panel, and I just want to close XD and just forget about all of it. So I'm going to make sure to name my layers as much as I can throughout this process. So we've got our background layer. I'm going to hop over to Finder, and I've got a ton of different assets we're going to be using throughout this project. And I've got this lovely, this is just so cute. And if anyone was, asking about Animal Crossing, this is kind of what it looks like. You're going to be put on a deserted island, and you just build up your little world. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to just drop the Animal Crossing image directly into this mask, which is now nicely masked. I can always double click on it if I wanted to move things around, reposition, recrop, all that fun stuff. I can also start altering this rectangle as well. Of course, if I click on it, I can, change the corner radius just by pulling on these handles, or I can also do it in the properties inspector over to the right, but I'm gonna get a little bit creative with this one. I want sort of a curve at the bottom, but I want everything else to be kind of flush. So I'm gonna double click on the bounds of this rectangle to access the path, and it will convert it from a rectangle to a path. And once you do that, you will not be able to control the corner radius using those little handles anymore. So keep that in mind if you are converting rectangles or polygons into paths. So I'm going to just, pop a point somewhere right about here. We've got this little blue point. And if I were to just move this up and down, we've got this very harsh line, which we probably don't want. We actually want a nice curved line. So I'm simply going to double click on this blue point, which it's a little bit difficult to see, but we now have these handles, one over here and one over here to the right. And this will allow us to kind of pull this in or out, so I can pull it down if I wanted to a little bit. I can also grab both of the side points. I can hold down Shift and click on the other one and just pull these up a little bit, right? And then I can really start tweaking this and just pull these handles outwards. And I'm holding down Shift to make sure they remain on that horizontal plane. And that looks pretty good. So we've got this nice little curved line of this background going on. And now we can start adding in some additional elements. And maybe in the background, behind this background image at the top, we might want a pattern. So I went over to Animal Crossing's website and I stole a bunch of, maybe stole isn't the word, I borrowed a bunch of elements. So I've got these patterns over here. I'm gonna just drag this into XD. And of course, I want many of these going across. I kind of want it to repeat. So of course, we are going to use our very trusty, our best friend in Adobe XD, the repeat grid, and which is this button up here to the right, top right corner of Adobe XD. We're simply going to press on that, and all together now, boop, there we go. We have to boop, otherwise the repeat grid doesn't work. We've got these handles. So we've got one on the right, we've got one on the bottom, and this allows you to pull out additional, in this case, patterns, horizontally or vertically. So I'm simply going to drag all of these across. I'm going to add, let's say, I don't know, a few more. I don't know how many that is. 1, 2, 3, 6, possibly. And of course, we have this padding in the center. In many cases, when you're dragging out, let's say, icons or gallery images and that sort of thing, you definitely want some sort of padding. But in this case, I want this pattern to be nice and seamless. So what I'm going to do is simply zoom in here, and I'm just going to drag this inwards. I can leave it at 0, -1, whatever it might be. That looks pretty flush to me. And looks like, I need one more. So I'm just gonna pull it out. I can pull out halfway, I can pull out full way, doesn't really matter. But now I have this nice seamless repeating pattern going across this artboard. And now what I can do is just make sure, I'm gonna make sure to name it. I'll just name this leaf pattern up in my layers panel. And I'm simply going to just move it down below that background image. And now I have, we're starting to see this screen come together. This could be the pre-order screen, this could be the screen to buy or watch a trailer, whatever it might be, right? Luke says, I ran the numbers. That is 6. Thank you, Luke. Math is hard. I'm just thankful XD can do math. So, things are looking pretty good. We want a few more elements. Of course, we need some sort of a title, right? We don't know what game this is. Of course, some of you may, but we need a title. So I'm going to go back over to Finder. I do have one. I think it's in the transparent folder, possibly. Animal Crossing. I borrowed a ton of images from Nintendo. I'm sorry, but thank you, Nintendo. I'm going to just drag these inwards. Okay, that's fine. Okay, please look at this document. I don't know what this is. What is happening? That's very strange. I've never experienced that before. That's a new error message for me. I'm going to report that to the team. I'm going to, let's go for Animal Crossing. Maybe I have to save it. I don't know. Possibly. Who knows? We'll find out what happens. This is the joy of live streaming. Things sometimes break and you have no idea why. Let me close this document and I'm going to open up the document one more time. This is fun, isn't it? Boop error. Indeed, yeah. I don't know what happened. Who knows what happened? Maybe some of the team is watching and they're probably freaking out right now that things are breaking live on air. This is very... You know what's strange about this? Let me quit this completely. You know what's strange about this is that I've used these assets in XD already, because obviously I've designed this before. So, this could be a fun stream. This could be a very premature ended stream. But let me open this again. I forgot. Maybe that could be it, Tim. I forgot to say boop. But let's see. Let's see if closing it and opening up again, something that happens. Oh, no. Okay. Well, there you go. What if I copy and paste it? Nope. This is very strange. What does this take me to? Import errors. I don't know. This is fun. Now, do they all do that, or is it just PNGs? The team is probably freaking out right now if they're watching this. Oh, boy. See, that works. Okay. Well, you know, what if I copy these? Oh, you know what it could be? Let me just type out logo. Nope, that could not be it. Changing it to a JPEG is probably not going to work. Use JPEG. Nope, okay. Anyways, we're going to move on. And yeah, XD is not cooperating, but I've never seen that. I promise, I've never seen that error before. But you know what? We're just going to run with it. We're going to keep going. I'm going to bring up my sample file over here on my other monitor, just so I can kind of reference what we're doing. And we're going to have some fun. Nintendo anti-privacy at work. Maybe Nintendo's like cracking down on me as I'm designing this. That could be interesting. All right. So is it a chance by? No, it's probably not. I don't think so, Jeremy. Because I did drag these images into XD previously. And just to show you, here's the sample file I'm kind of working on. So I can probably just copy and paste them over. Does that work? Let's see if that works. Copy, paste. It does. See? They exist, right? Anyways, weird things are happening. And let's say if I drag this in, does that help? No, it doesn't. Anyways, I'll have to report that to the team. Anyways, so here we go. We're back at it. Fun times. Live shows are always fun. So we've got this logo up here at the top, right? Just to kind of tell users what this game is if they click on it by mistake or they're browsing the store and they click on this or tap on it, whatever they do. Tim says, probably a prank by the XD team. Maybe it is. All right, so we've got the logo at the top. And Munir saying maybe restart XD. I did restart it. Didn't work. I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you all know. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll let you know what the team says about this. So maybe right below this, we might want some sort of a container that's going to house a little bit of information, maybe a welcome message, maybe a few buttons, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and draw one out across this artboard. I do want it kind of hanging off the bottom. So I'm just going to leave it, let's say, maybe here, make sure it snaps to the center of, it's probably a copyright thing. I don't think so. I mean, it might be, but who knows? I'm going to make sure it snaps to the center of this document. And that's looking pretty good in terms of the size of this box. But I might want to round out the corners because, you know, Animal Crossing, the Switch is kind of like a playful console and game. So I'm going to, you know, bring this in. Let's say 24 pixels looks pretty good. We can always adjust that later. Probably don't need a border on this particular box. But I do need, one, a color, and two, some sort of a pattern. We're going to get into some fun stuff as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my fill, and let's go for like a nice dark brown. Something maybe a little bit more desaturated, somewhere right about there, just to kind of match the aesthetic of the rest of the design. You've got this wood style pattern up here in the top where the logo is. So that looks pretty good right about there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Again, we can always go back and change these colors later on if we need to. Maybe I'll make the logo a little bit larger. That's looking pretty good. All right, so we've got this box. Maybe I'll move this up just a little bit. There we go. Now, maybe inside this box, we might also want some sort of a pattern. Now, I don't have a pattern, and maybe dragging it in won't work anymore. But maybe we can create one, right? We can use repeat grids to create our own pattern. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to zoom really far in here. And I'm going to hold down Shift to create a lovely little ellipse. And I want this a little bit darker than the box behind it. So I'm going to sample this color and then simply just drop this just a touch. We don't want this too crazy. We want it to kind of blend in quite a bit, because if we have too much contrast and then we have some text over top of it, it's going to be very difficult to really see that against the background. So I've got this little dot here, and I might want some more. So I might want one over here. Let's say that's, 14 pixels from the side. I might also want one in the center, just like this, right? And I can hold down my Alt key or Option key. I can see that this is 2. So I can push this back. We got 3 and 3. That looks pretty good. And maybe one more over here to the side. That looks pretty good, I think. Let's make sure this looks relatively aligned. That looks pretty good. So we've got, 14. We've got 14. We've got 3 and 3. Perfect. So we've got these 4 little dots, right? Now, of course, we don't want to sit here all day replicating each one of these dots. Nobody wants to deal with that, because this will take us quite a while, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to select all of these ellipses, And once again, we're going to hit our lovely repeat grid button at the top. Boop. And now what we're able to do is we're able to create our own pattern. Luke is asking, how do I donate bits? We don't accept bits. There's no bits here. We do this all for free because we like it. I mean, I get paid, but you know, no donations here. But thank you for joining us. So now I can just pull out these additional patterns, these little dots. I can adjust the padding just like this. Make sure everything lines up, looking pretty good. I think it's a little bit too much. Let's go for 8, maybe. No, a little bit more. Maybe 7, possibly. No, I think more. 4, 3. Was it 4? Was it 3? Right? I think it was 3. That looks pretty good. I forgot what the number was. I can pull some downwards as well. I can make sure these line up really nicely. This was what, 14? Actually, I don't know what this was. This was 7. So we want to make sure that this is also 7, just like that. Tim says, you get paid? I think so. I hope so, at least. So now that we have our pattern, we can just continue to drag it out down the artboard and across the artboard. And look at that. Look at this beautiful pattern that we've got going on this container. And of course, now that we have all these dots, I am noticing, because we have a lot more, it's looking pretty harsh. So I can just drop the opacity of the entire repeat grid. And now that we have this really nice looking pattern on top of this container. I can just go ahead and name this dots pattern. And there we go. I can just name this container and just make sure everything's nicely organized. And I can group this as well. And container. Perfect. All right. So things are looking pretty good, right? We've got this container in the background. We've got these patterns. Everything's kind of coming together, but of course we need some text, we need some buttons, we might need a tree, which, let me just double check, but I don't believe the tree is gonna come in. Nope, the tree's broken. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna grab the tree and the oranges from this other document that I have, paste them in here, just so we have them. And basically all I would have done if things were working is just drag the tree in, drag the oranges in, put them in a group, call it tree, for example, and then just kind of move it into place right over here, just to kind of give it a little bit of a 3D kind of breaking the bounds type style thing. And that looks pretty fancy. Abdullah says, thanks for repeat grid. You're welcome. I wish I could take credit for the repeat grid, but it's a wonderful feature, isn't it? All right, so maybe now in this area here, we might want some buttons, and of course we might want some text. So let's start with the text, because that's probably the easy one. And let's type out welcome. And I might want a little bit of a more playful font, but not super playful. Like, we don't want to go for Comic Sans, do we? I don't know, let me know in the chat. Should we go for Comic Sans in this case? Probably not. So in that, I'm probably gonna go for like Sophia Pro Soft. Sophia Pro is one of my favorite fonts. And Tim's saying you can try moving the files to a different folder. Maybe, I can try that. I can definitely try that, Tim. Let's try that. I'm gonna just back up, or it's gonna work. There we go. Let's see if that works, Tim. It may not, who knows. And drag it in, and nope, fail. Anyways, should we go for Comic Sans? Nope, so we have nope. Jimmy says yes, Jeremy says no. Okay, no Comic Sans. So we're gonna go for Sophia Pro. Again, one of my favorite fonts. They do have a soft version of Sophia Pro, and Tim says Papyrus. Definitely not. This is an avatar. So I'm gonna pop welcome somewhere right about here. Now, here's an interesting thing, right? This is where design kind of gets weird. So typically, assuming this tree doesn't exist, we would grab this welcome text and we would move it to make sure it snaps in the center of this container. However, because we have this tree that's kind of breaking the bounds of this container and covering up some of it, when we activate it, that looks a bit strange. Because now we have, I don't know what these pixels are, but we have a little bit of pixels over here, and we have a lot of pixels over here. So we kind of have to use the visual center. Of course, you could go ahead and create a rectangle, like an invisible rectangle over top of, let me actually show you. You can kind of create a rectangle like this, lining up with the side of the tree, and then make sure that welcome is kind of in the center of that. Snap, do it. There it goes. Snap into a lot of different things, but it's pretty much that, right? So you kind of have to use your visual line things up visually instead of using the container in the background. And even this still looks a bit weird because we used the very tip of this tree, but that doesn't make up the bulk of the side of the tree. So it's, you know, sometimes you have to get a little bit different. You have to kind of break the bounds a little bit. So I'm going to leave it somewhere right about there. Visually, that kind of looks okay. Of course, we can make changes later on. I don't want to spend too much time working on the text, but that looks okay right there. Next, we want to do some sort of area text. I'm going to delete this rectangle. And this is going to kind of be for a welcome message. So I'm going to grab my text tool, draw out some area text right about here. And I'm just going to grab the text from this other file here. I'm going to copy it just to cheat a little bit, paste it in here. That's obviously way too big. The weight is also probably a little bit too thick. So I'm going to drop that down to, let's say, medium, and then start dropping the size a little bit. I might want to center it as well. Maybe drop it a little bit more. And you also don't want to drop it too much, because then if you have just one word at the bottom line, it's called a widow sometimes, then it looks a bit strange as well. You don't want that word floating down at the bottom. And I'll just line this up. Maybe I'll increase this a little bit. See, there's that little widow down there. So maybe I'll just, there we go. That looks better. Beautiful. Okay. So now we're kind of getting somewhere. We've got our welcome header. We've got our welcome text. And Eric is saying center it under the Animal Crossing text. Yeah, sometimes you can probably get away with that, but again, because the Animal Crossing text is centered on within the entire artboard, right? If I do that, let me hide this. Whoops. It kind of doesn't line up with the container in the background. Sometimes it'll work. It's very tricky. So I'm gonna probably leave it at this for now. I'm not loving it, but we're gonna run with it. We don't want to waste too much time. So now below this, let me fix my area text. We want our buttons. So to make a button, very simple. We're gonna grab a rectangle and we're gonna draw one out just like this. We might want to round out the corners just a little bit, not too much. So I'm gonna grab the corners, round these out, maybe let's say 8 pixels, looks pretty good. Again, probably in this case, we don't wanna go completely round because it breaks from the aesthetic of the rest of the elements. Now we probably don't wanna go completely flush because again, it doesn't really match. So 8 pixels looks pretty good. And for this particular button, I think I'm gonna go for a white button with some brown text to kind of match the background. And I'm gonna grab my text, I'm gonna type out buy, whoops, I can't see anything. There we go. Let's say buy for, I think Animal Crossing is $59. This one is gonna be bold because we definitely want someone who's on this page to be able to see it. Yeah, Patrick is saying I can spend 10 to 20 minutes centering one box of text. I do that all the time. Or I'm spending like an hour tweaking colors. Do I want this brown or this brown? It's like when you're at the optometrist, 1 or 2. I don't know, they look the same. So we've got this button here, right? The amount of about 13, let's go for 16 pixels. I don't know why I'm doing this because we do have now content-aware layout available in Adobe XD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the background of this button. I'm also going to select the text of this button. I want to turn it into a component. And the way you use content-aware layout is you either use a group or a component, right? So I'm going to turn it into a component, Command or Control K. I can hop into my assets to check it out. I'm going to name it button. Seems pretty logical, right? Jimmy says, can you lower that price? I wish I could. Now over here to the right in the properties, we have our padding option. We can turn this on and we can set our padding values. We can either do it within the properties inspector or we can do it directly on the canvas using our lovely tilde key, which is a little squiggly guy beside the number 1. We can just hold down tilde and Alt option and drag this down to about 16 pixels. That looks, whoops, I missed it. 16 pixels. Again, you can also do it in the properties inspector to the right as well. The alignment looks so weird. Yeah, it kind of does. It's very difficult. I'm gonna leave it at this. I can always make changes to it later on. So what I'm gonna do now, hey, Adobe Live, Gus Spot, possibly, welcome. So we've got this one button now as a component. I'm gonna put it on this side here. We also want another button. This one might be maybe a button to watch the trailer. And this is the cool thing about using the do padding and content aware option with your buttons. If I duplicate this over to create an instance, and let's say I type out watch trailer, look at that button. It's just magically enlarging and shrinking as you're typing this thing, which is really nice. Now maybe in this particular instance, I might want to change the color of this button. Maybe this will be a nice, ooh, that looks pretty good, right? Whoops, I missed it. My trackpad got stuck. Right about right about there. That looks pretty good. I kind of digging it. So we've got these 2 buttons now, and I might want to, let's say 24 pixels from each other, and I might want to center these with the welcome text. That way everything looks a little bit centered. And again, we're running into the same problem that we ran into last time with this darn tree. It's throwing everything off because the tree, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about this. Of course, we can line it up with the center here, and we can line this up with the center, and this up with the center. Does that look better? Maybe I can move the tree over. This tree is causing some problems. How's that? Is that looking a little bit better? Maybe it is. Maybe that's looking better. I don't know. Let me know in the chat what looks better, this or the other, the visual center type thing. But you know what? We're going to run with this. We're going to continue designing and having some fun. So what I want to do, just before we go on to the next step, is I want to create a little bit of separation between the background. Move the tree a little bit. Yeah. So I moved it a little bit, and it kind of looks a little bit better. It's kind of working. It's still looking a bit strange. Anyways, so I want to create a little bit of separation between the containers and the background. So I'm just going to grab the container back here and add a little bit of a drop shadow. You've probably heard me talk about drop shadows in the past, right? Let me bump up the Y value a touch and the blur a little bit. Eric's saying, there you go. Possibly, yeah, it might work. So now you don't want to do this, right? Because this, if I zoom out, this is like 1990. You're using Photoshop for the first time. Photoshop was like, what, just coming out, I think. This is just not, just don't, right? So what you're gonna do is just very subtle border. You don't, shadow, you don't want too crazy, maybe like 15%. And it just creates a little bit of a shadow, just enough of a shadow that you can, you know, separate a little bit from the background. And you can do the same thing with the text as well. Add a little bit of shadow. Now, what I want to do is actually add the shadow to my master component. That way, Elon Musk. Hello, Elon Musk. Thank you for joining us, Elon Musk. I totally, think you are the real Elon Musk. So as I'm adding this shadow to this master component, it's adding it to all the instances as well. So you definitely want to make sure you're adding it to your masters. Again, a very, very subtle drop shadow, nothing too crazy, maybe 10% for this case. Again, just to separate it. I am noticing that the padding is a little bit off, so I might want to fix that a touch. That looks a little bit better, tiny bit better. There we go. All right, so things are coming along. Of course, you know, we have this screen. Of course, we can create a lot more down below, but we want to kind of, you know, transition this to the Nintendo Switch's homepage or home screen, whatever you want to call it. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to be using masks. Elon, your Animal Crossing design skills are just what we need at SpaceX. Listen, Elon, if you are the real Elon Musk, let's talk. But you're probably not the real Elon Musk. So I'm going to create one more artboard, and we're just going to start, I'm actually going to just delete all this stuff. And we're going to start kind of blocking out what the home screen is going to look like in this case. Very simple, because of course the big things are the cards that are going to be in the center, which we're going to be using from the previous artboard. So maybe at the top left-hand corner, we want a little bit of a profile photo right about here. And just for fun, I'm going to not grab these transparent images because they were not working. But let's go ahead and grab, let's little Zelda over here. Whoop. Or Link, whatever. There we go. You have Link as a profile. Fantastic. And maybe over to the right. You know what? Before we do that, let's change the background a little bit. Maybe instead of a solid color, we might want a bit of a linear gradient. At the top, we can have a nice white color, possibly. And maybe at the bottom, just slightly gray. Just like that, just to get a little bit fancy in there. Nothing too crazy. With your gradients, you don't want to go like this. It's probably not going to work. You want just a little bit of a gradient, just like that. Perfect. Now, over to the right, we might want a battery icon, and this is super simple to create. Let's actually create one here, just so we have a frame of reference. I'm going to grab my rectangle, draw one out just like this. Beautiful battery. I know Elon Musk, who is very real and in the chat right now, He works a lot with batteries. So this is, I'm submitting my resume right now to become an icon designer for Tesla and SpaceX. Yeah, Jamie says certainly looks like Elon. Yes. So we probably don't need a fill. I want a bit of a border, maybe like a darkish border, just like that. That looks pretty good. And then we might want a little bit of a, I don't know what you call them, the contact at the outside. So I'm going to duplicate this shape, bring it down a touch, just like that. Look at that. Look at that battery. Look at that, Elon Musk. Hope you're enjoying my batteries. That's a beautiful looking battery. Are you still here, Elon Musk? He's not. Elon ran away. Now inside we might want to show how much of this battery is actually filled. So I'm gonna maybe duplicate this. You know, designing is a lot of just duplicating things. If you've got the elements, you might as well duplicate them, right? Look at that. Look at that battery. You know, it's a bit too long. That's why look, now there's a fake Howard Pinsky in the chat. Now I don't appreciate this. There's a fake Howard Pinsky, there's a fake Elon Musk. I'm gonna click on your username, fake Howard Pinsky. Luke Boy D Stun. I see you. I see you, Luke Boy, you've been exposed. Anyway, so we've got this battery icon. Things are looking pretty good. Big fan of Tesla, yes, indeed. Someone deal with that other Howard Pinsky for me. So we've got this battery, things are looking good. I'm gonna group everything together, just like that, just call it battery. And I wanna make sure to move it over to the right-hand side of my interface. Look at that battery just kind of floating over there, over to the right. All right, so we've got kind of the style of the basics of our home screen. We might also want some navigation. And this is kind of where the folders idea kind of comes from. And maybe in a future XD Masterclass, we can explore what that looks like. And I'm gonna just type out, let's say, games, make this quite a bit bigger, because this is gonna be the active tab or screen, whatever you wanna call it. Make sure everything lines up really nicely. Just like that, possibly. Nope, maybe. I will align it like that. Beautiful. I'm gonna align this as well. That looks pretty good. All right, so we've got games, and maybe over to the left, we might want, let's say, system, and this will allow you to access some of those icons that are currently at the bottom of the Nintendo Switch that we probably don't need them to be there all the time. But this is not gonna be the active one, so I'm gonna actually drop the color a little bit. Maybe want to drop the weight a touch as well. And maybe you want to be able to access it with, let's say, the left trigger on your Switch. So I'm going to just type out bracket L, and then I might want to use the superscript option within XD just to kind of boop, pop it up there, right? Just like that. And then over here to the right, maybe these are going to be where the folders are. Folders. And this will be R for right. Yeah, where is Elon? Where did Elon Musk go? Maybe he's putting together my job offer. That could be it. All right. So this is looking pretty good. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this font in this situation. Like, it looked pretty good on the Animal Crossing screen, but I'm not sure I like it here. So maybe I want to go instead like Avenir Next Condensed. Something like that, and maybe not bold, maybe demi-bold or something like that. It looks pretty good. Let me do the same thing here. Avenir Next Condensed. It's looking a little bit better. I can push these inwards a little bit. Using responsive resize, everything looks pretty good. He's gone to space, I think so. I don't know what Merce says, I don't know what to do with two Howards. I don't either. Kind of creeps me out. All right, I'm gonna move these down just a touch. Maybe all of this stuff, just move down a bit. Okay, spending too much time working on these links. We want to get to the good stuff, right? Of course, on this screen, we want to be able to swipe between various cards and, you know, and then expand as Animal Crossing comes out. So what we're going to do, we're going to start by creating one card, just like this. This will be, let's say, the non-active card. I'm going to round out the corners a little bit. Let's say 24 pixels, look pretty good. And for this one, this is not going to be the Animal Crossing game. So what I'm going to hop over to Finder. Let's grab Super Mario Odyssey, I think is what I had in the example. Pop that in there, beautiful. And then over here to the right, we might want, let's say, Luigi's Mansion. Jesse's asking, what's the difference between Demi and Sammy? Often not a lot. Sometimes typefaces have like medium, they have demi, they have bold, semi-bold, black, ultra black. They just have a ton of different weights. Often semi and demi are you can be used interchangeably. So likely nothing. So we've got these two cards right here, and we might this probably won't work again, but I might want to drag. We've got some other ones here. Oh, that one worked. So it was just the ones in this folder that for some reason, oh, you know what okay, I know what it is. I know what it is. These files actually don't exist. Yeah, I don't believe they fully exist because I'm using OneDrive. And I quit OneDrive before I started the stream because it was taking up too much CPU power or CPU percentage or whatever it was. These I don't believe were fully downloaded on my computer. They're still kind of fake on my computer, but they're actually stored on OneDrive. I believe that's the problem. I didn't fully download it. So it may not be XD in this case. I don't think these files actually work. Okay, that could be it. But these ones were downloaded because I added them to this computer specifically. The other ones were added to my other computer, which sank, but it didn't sync. Makes sense. Okay. So anyways, back to this. We've got Mario, right? Everyone loves Mario. I love Mario. He's a good guy. I'm gonna pop him right about there. See, Elon Musk agrees with me. It's problem solving like this that we're looking out for. Elon, don't you have other things to do? Now I'm just ruining my chances at working for SpaceX. I have a Tesla in my garage, in case that helps my case, Elon. I'm gonna drag lovely little Luigi over here. Now, of course, we're missing the main one. We're missing Animal Crossing right in the center, but we don't wanna just add Animal Crossing just like we did. We actually wanna add all the elements of this screen to this particular card. We're gonna get a little bit crazy, but that's what, these master classes are for, right? So this is what we're gonna do. We are going to grab this shape here that I'm using for Odyssey. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it on this artboard. I'm gonna make sure to center it somewhere. It doesn't matter where. I'm gonna center it in the middle of the document, somewhere right about, come on, center. There we go, perfect. And I want to make sure to get rid of the image that's inside of this shape, because if I use this, or I try to use this to mask all the elements behind, it's not gonna work. And it's because it's basically already a mask. So we wanna make sure to go to the fill and just change this to something else. So what we're gonna do is, let me actually duplicate this artboard just so we have this down there, right? Shouldn't you be working on non-breakable windows? Yeah, Elon, what happened with that? So I've got this shape here, and we want to be able to mask everything, but we don't want to be able to mask the tree. So I'm actually going to grab my tree, I'm going to copy it and paste it outside of this container, just like that. And we don't want to mask the tree, but we do want to mask everything else. I'm going to move this down a touch. I want it just about there, let's say. Perfect. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab the mask, which I'm going to name mask, and I'm going to grab everything else below it. And with that done, I'm going to go to object and then mask with shape. And what's going to happen now, it's going to take all the elements that are below this mask and put them all inside the mask, like this. Everything's gone. Now, obviously that looks a little bit ridiculous. If I were to take this and pop this onto this screen here, that just looks weird, right? We want to focus on the artwork of Animal Crossing and the title card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the mask, select, let's say, the container, move the container over like this, and I'm going to maybe move this down, grab the title card. Hey, Elon Musk, by the way, if you are the real Elon Musk, shoot me a tweet at Pinsky. Send me a tweet and, we'll talk. But I have a feeling you are not the real Elon Musk. All right, so and maybe just to give a little bit of motion as this stuff kind of comes in, maybe I'll move welcome over here. I'll move, this one over here a little bit. Maybe I'll grab the buttons, move those over, grab this one, move it over a little bit more, just to kind of have some fun with this. So now that we've got this going on, things are looking pretty fancy, right? We might want to do the same thing over here. So what I'm going to do is actually grab the mask, paste it here, and do the exact same thing. Where's my tree? Where is my tree? Actually, you know what I can do? I can actually just duplicate this downwards. This is probably very confusing to some of you. Actually, I don't have to do that. Ignore me. So we've got our card here looking pretty good. I'm going to copy this. Let me actually name this Animal, screaming into my layers. Animal Crossing. I'm gonna copy this and pop it right over here. Look at that. That looks pretty fancy. Move it up just a little bit. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna take note of, this is, what is this, 272? Yeah, 272. I wanna make sure that this is pretty much the same on this one. 272, even though it won't matter too much, I wanna make sure it's very similar. Elon says, check your PMs. Okay, I will definitely check my PMs after I stream. And I'll keep you all up to date on Twitter if it is the real Elon Musk. So we've got that there. I might wanna grab my tree, pop it over here. This will be the active card. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to enlarge this a little bit, like this. Look at that. Make sure to center it. Grab my tree, pop that there. Now I might want to move these guys. Little Luigi, move him over a little bit. Mario, move him over a little bit. Make sure everything, this is about 67. No, we need a little bit more. 66, boop, 67, great. Okay, so our main screen is looking pretty good, but of course, this screen is looking a little bit strange. So what we need to do is we need to now expand the mask that we have, that we just created, to kind of show all the other information. So I'm gonna dive in here. I've got the mask, and I want the mask to expand to you know, be full screen. So I'm just gonna, you know, hold down Alt-Option, drag this across. I'm going to enlarge this. I can de-round the corners if that's what you want to call it. You can, you know, round them if you wanted to, or you can make them flush. Then of course we want to move all this stuff back to the center. So this we're gonna make nice and large, like that, beautiful. Let's select the container and the dots, make sure that's centered really nicely. Grab our text and just start, you know, putting everything back into place where they belong. This, I believe, was 24 pixels when we had it. This is 25, now it's 24. Grab my buttons, make sure those are centered as well. And of course, my smart guides are helping me throughout the process. Got my tree. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Maybe I can have it overlapping a little bit just for a fun little effect. All right, so we now have essentially both of our states complete. We've got our home screen. Let me actually move these so they make a little bit more sense. Yeah, Lena, masks are amazing. So how do we actually animate this thing? How do we transition from this little tiny card to this? Well, of course, we've done all the hard work, right? Now, of course, we might want, you know, some of this information. Let's say, let me just group this. I'll just name this Luigi, and this is going to be Mario. We might want some of this information also on the this screen here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy these, I'm gonna paste them over here, and I wanna make sure that they are behind the mask. I'm just gonna drag them down just like this. And you know what, I might want to just, let me put them up for a second, because I might wanna grab Luigi, move him off a little bit, and actually move him, the transparent layer, inwards a little bit, just to kind of give a little bit of a parallax effect. Mario, move him off a little bit. Again, same thing, grab him, move him a little bit. And now I can go ahead and move these to the back of the layer stack, just like that. I can do the same thing for the navigation. Let me go ahead and group all this fun stuff. Group, call this navigation. I'm gonna copy it. Anna says, Elon just wants your feedback concerning Tesla. I actually did design a Tesla interface at some point. And I'll move this to the back. All right. So now we have both of our artboards complete, and now we can actually see this in action. Of course, you could do all of this with one artboard and components, but we're just, you know, to make it a little bit easier to see, we're gonna do it on two. And if you do wanna use gamepad triggers at the moment, they do not work with components. That might be coming at some point in the future, but for now, you know, we're gonna do it with two. So I'm gonna go into prototype mode, and essentially when someone taps on Animal Crossing, it's going to switch over to the other screen. So I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna drag this little handle over to the second artboard here, and now we can start working on our properties in the properties inspector. So we've got a tap trigger, we definitely want that. Of course, we could use keys and gamepad. We might, probably won't have time to get into that now. We'll just do tap for now. Want to make sure to do auto animate. And if you've never used XD before, maybe Elon Musk in the chat has not used XD before, what auto animate's going to do is it's going to look at the differences between the two artboards. And because we made sure to name everything accordingly, so that everything, the mask is named the same on both artboards and all the layers are named the same, they're on the same groups and masks, it's going to animate the differences. So I'm going to go to, let's go for ease in and out with, let's say, I don't know, 0.6 seconds. We'll see what that looks like. And we'll go from there. So we're gonna press the play button at the top of the XD interface. And here we go, ready? Bam! Look at that, fancy. Now, if we wanna get even fancier, we can have a little bit of a time transition. So maybe you want these little oranges to kind of jiggle, little jiggle, right? I'm gonna duplicate this artboard and I'm going to grab my oranges and dive in here. Maybe I'll just rotate this like that. I'll rotate this like that. Maybe this one will rotate just a little bit, right? And now we can create a little time transition over to this artboard here. This is going to be a time transition, and I will note that time transitions are only available on an artboard level, so they are not available if you have individual objects selected. Maybe I'll want like a 1 second delay. I don't want any easing for this one. And I want a duration, a very quick duration, 0.2 seconds. And then from this artboard, the second one, I want it to actually go back to the first artboard. So again, time transition, maybe 0 seconds, because I want it to take place immediately. And this one, I might want a bounce. Now, usually I stay away from bounce completely, but in this case, it might work. So we want 0.8 seconds possibly. So here we go again. I'm gonna press play, tap on Animal Crossing, watch the oranges. There they go, look at that. And because it's on a time transition, it'll just continue to loop. And what's nice is you can, still wire up these buttons to do whatever you need them to do, and the oranges will just kind of sit there and jiggle away. How's that, Elon Musk? Do you want me to design some oranges for Tesla interfaces that jiggle? I can do that. All right, so here we go. Now, other thing we might want to do is we might want to be able to swipe or navigate between some different cards here. So what we could do is let's duplicate this upwards a little bit, and maybe Mario will be the highlight one, right? So I'm gonna maybe make this a little bit larger so it matches. There we go. That looks pretty good. Make him a bit bigger, and then Animal Crossing will get a little bit smaller. Maybe move the tree inwards a little bit like this. Beautiful. That looks pretty good. Make sure this is nice and centered. There we go. Perfect. All right, now it's super easy to actually get this thing wired up. So what you have to do is, let's say you want to go for prototype. You want to be able to drag on or tap on Animal Crossing, for example. Drag this over here, tap, let's say auto animate, ease in and out. We'll do a fairly quick duration, 0.4 seconds, press play. Or not, that's fine. Press play, and boop, there we go. And then tap again, it expands, and the oranges jiggle. Now let me see just very quickly if I can get my Xbox controller working. I am turning my Xbox controller on, and let's go ahead and let's say if I'm on this one, right? Go into prototype mode, drag this over. Whoops, drag this over to this artboard. Keys and gamepad, and if I press, there we go. So I'm pressing basically the buttons on my controller to go to the right. It's gonna do the thing. Then if I go over here, right, I can drag out another one to this artboard, and I can use keys and gamepad, and maybe let's press the A button. And you're noticing over here, we've got the A button going on. So now what I can do is just use my controller to go to the next card, press the A button, and it transitions. And then of course, we have our magical jiggling oranges. So gamepad, even though this is an Xbox controller, interacting with a Nintendo Switch user interface, you can still do it. And of course, I can hop back over here. I can go from, let's say this, right, back to this, keys and gamepad, this will be left. So now I can go back, forth, all using my Xbox controller. And of course, I can press A to expand it, and we have our lovely oranges that are jiggling. There we go. that's going to just about do it. Hope you all enjoyed that. Especially you, Elon Musk. I know you were, tuning into the whole thing because you have nothing better to do than to tune into my streams. But thank you, Elon. Thank you, Richard and Philip and Jesse and Munir and Anna and Jack and Gus and Patrick and Abdullah and Richard again and Lena. Everyone else joining me today. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you picked up on some tips. If you do have suggestions for the next Adobe XD Masterclass, which is coming in 7 days, I will be back here. Let me know. Shoot me a tweet at Pinsky. You can message me on lots of different places. But thank you, everyone, for joining me, and I will see you all next time.